Every month I help 4 million plus Muslims with their personal finances, and a large chunk of you come from the USA, because you see folks, there's almost 4.5 million Muslims in the USA, and the surprising thing is that the USA is way behind the UK when it comes to halal investments and Islamic finance. But there are now a bunch of options, and that's exactly what I'm going to dig into now and share with you. And for those of you that don't live in the USA, pretty much all of the investments that we're going to cover today are also relevant for you as a nice way to get exposure to either the US market or investments in the US dollar ecosystem. And make sure that you stick around right till the end, because we've got a very exciting announcement coming from Curate Capital, our investment arm, for all people who are interested in US dollar investments. Without further ado, let's dive in. Before we start, remember folks, this is not financial advice. We're not recommending any of the products that we mentioned. We're covering it more from a journalistic perspective, and always do your own research, and if in doubt, speak to a financial advisor. Let's begin with investments that we all know and love, the public markets. Public market investments are investments that are traded on exchanges and platforms and that are really easily accessible to the public, such as on the stock exchange. And these include individual stocks like the Apple, Microsoft, and Googles of the world, or ETFs such as the S&P 500. Interestingly, in the US market, there's a lot more of an emphasis on public markets and individual stock investing, which I find fascinating. But anyway, let's dig in to find out what's actually available in the US that is actually halal though. For this video, we're only going to focus on ETFs, as individual stocks need to be screened to assess whether they're Sharia compliant or not. If you want to do that, then check out our halal stock screening course for more info to learn how you can Sharia screen stocks for yourself, or use tools like Zoya or Islamically or Musaffa who can do it for you. Back to halal ETFs. Well, you're in luck, and there's a fair few funds that are halal and easily accessible via most brokerage apps. And that's both in the UK and the USA and the rest of the world as well, by the way. We'll kick off with Amana, who have a few funds, but their most popular is their mutual fund, AIM-GX, which is where we hear that pretty much every halal conscious Muslim has a chunk of his or her retirement savings in. Amana is by far the big daddy of investing in the US, and also, frankly, has a big presence globally as well, managing over 7 billion in assets at the last count, which kind of fluctuates as markets do well or badly, but it's a pretty sizable amount. Next up, we have Azad Fund's Ethical Fund, which is a growth-oriented stock fund and the only halal screened mid-cap mutual fund in the USA. Following that, we have the halal equivalent of the S&P 500 with a very attractive name of the S&P 500 Sharia Industry Exclusions ETF. This fund is managed by Sharia Portfolio, so is another one to look at, and you can compare that to the others available as well. Lastly, we have Wahid's FTSE USA Sharia ETF, aka Halal, which is another halal ETF that can give you a wide exposure to the stock market in a halal wrapper. HSBC also have a few halal ETFs, but of course there are some issues at the moment around that because of the whole BDS movement. We've done a separate video on that as well, so you can check that out. I'm not saying don't invest in them. I'm not saying do invest in them. I'm saying do your homework. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite asset class, real estate. To kick off, there's the Amin Housing Cooperative, who are the big daddies of halal property investment. They've been around for around 30 years in the USA, and so they've got tons of experience and have solid links to AMJA, which is a major fiqh council operating in North America as well. They used to only do business in California, but have recently started doing more business in Texas, where there is a big Muslim population. Next up, we have the new kid on the block, who, according to our analysts across the pond, are poised to take the world of halal property finance and investing by storm, and they are Nia. Though they mainly offer halal home financing in the USA, a topic for a different video perhaps, they do offer accredited investors a Sharia compliant cash only real estate investment opportunity as well. So interestingly, this is very similar to our GBP fixed income at Curate, which is again aimed at home finance, particularly in the UK. Definitely worth checking them out as well. Of course, caveat, it's early days. Then there's Apex Capital Group, who offer premium real estate investment opportunities, they say, in New Jersey, as well as Provision Capital, who are based in Dallas and also offer halal real estate investment opportunities aimed at creating positive community impact, they say. So definitely worth keeping an eye on these emerging players as well. Another couple of players to keep your eyes on are first, Veloci Capital, who are a New Jersey-based outfit who've done a lot of conventional real estate deals, but are also now doing some Islamic deals as well and are keen to grow that book. Another emerging player definitely to keep your eye on. Then you've got Bina Capital, who are based out of California, who pride their investments on being 100% debt-free with a focus on residential multifamily properties in growing markets. Again, early days. Now, I do have to caveat that some of these firms are pretty small and some of these firms are only coming into halal investing relatively recently. We haven't necessarily done detailed due diligence on any of these players. We are talking to some of them as we speak, so more and more will be learnt about them as we go along, but I do have to caveat that you should make sure you do your own research. And in the USA in particular, it has its own specific regulatory requirements as well. Typically, these investments will only be suitable for accredited investors, so make sure that you're aware of that as well. And it may well be, folks, that Curate Capital at some point partners up with some of these platforms and actually provides investments via Curate Capital into these platforms as well. So if you are keen to invest, you can either go on their website right now and check out what they have available, or you can join the Curate Capital platform, and once we fully due diligenced whatever investments we're comfortable with, you'll probably find that they pop up on the Curate Capital platform as well. Now, plenty of us just want a place to store our cash away so inflation doesn't eat away at it, and it's easily accessible as well, i.e. it's quite liquid. And that's where investments into savings accounts are generally quite useful for. In the USA, there's not a whole lot of savings accounts, unfortunately, as the vast majority of savings accounts are offered by banks that are haram. But interestingly enough, UIF very recently started offering a savings account which may be worth checking out. In addition, you've got all-time players such as the Bank of Whittier, who have also been in the game for 40 years, who are offering a halal savings account. Again, caveat as ever, I've not dug into the legals on these particular products, but I'm just going on face value here. The venture space seems to be pretty limited for probably the largest venture capital market in the world. That's slightly disappointing, but it also means there's an opportunity for someone who wants to get the arm around it and create opportunities for the rest of the community. The main way that investors can get access to US venture capital and tech startups is via a company called AngelList, which is a private angel syndicate that allows you to join various different syndicates that are bringing deals to the platform, and you can invest in pretty high quality deals, it has to be said, via those syndicates. Sharia compliance isn't necessarily always observed, and so that's something to be somewhat cautious of, but generally speaking, in the tech space, a lot of things are generally pretty Sharia compliant out of the box. The other alternative, by the way, is to invest in the Curate Capital VC fund, a portion of which is going to be invested in international markets, including the USA. But it has to be said that the vast majority of it is actually focused on the UK because of the particular tax treatments that we get advantaged by in the UK and investing into UK companies. But for sure, we think that there's a huge amount of opportunities both in the US market and the Middle Eastern market, which are not going to be suitable for our current fund. So we may well bring out another fund for that. Keep your eyes out for that when it happens. When it comes to income investments, really there is only Azad's Wise Capital Fund, which is the first halal fixed income publicly listed fund in the USA. It is effectively a mutual fund, and the returns on offer are somewhere in the region of 1-2-ish%, which is quite normal for a publicly listed income fund, very, very low risk. But in terms of private credit and slightly higher returning income investments, we couldn't find anything, nor did our contacts know of anything currently available in the US market, and that is until now. As I've mentioned earlier in the video, Curate Capital already has a very successful flagship GBP denominated fixed income fund returning 7.5%. That's done very well, and it's helped a lot of people get onto the housing ladder and facilitate home financing in the UK. But increasingly, we've seen that a lot of our investors, both in the UK, have US dollar lying around, and we have investors across the world, including in the Middle East and North America, where they have US dollar, and that is something that they want to see more of on our platform. So that's why we're really excited to launch the Curate US Dollar Income Fund. And just like the GBP sister that it has, it offers Sharia compliant, lower risk, stable returns for those who are wishing to invest in the US dollar and getting a return in the US dollar as well. The kind of returns on offer will be in the region of 8 to 10%, and this will be suitable as ever with our funds only for accredited investors, or in the UK, high net worth or sophisticated investors. For further details, you can check out here, and you can also find the link in the description below. Now, onwards onto our next asset class. Private equity investment is buying stocks and shares in private companies that are not available or accessible to the public. It could be owning a slice of any business, such as your local warehouse or your local restaurant chain, or even a pharmacy or a barber's. We're big believers in private equity investment, as a solid private equity strategy has the potential for really decent returns, 18% plus, and the risk is relatively constrained because you are investing in a profitable, viable business. But unfortunately, there's not really any halal options that are live and available in the USA right now that we are aware of. But hopefully this sector matures and grows, and we'll see that change. Of course, if you want to invest in private equity, we do have our pharmacy strategy, but that is UK based and is GBP denominated. That's all for today, folks. If you think we've missed some options available, then please do mention them in the comments below so everyone can benefit from that, and we'll mention them the next time we do these videos. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.